agreement between the Emiratis
Hello
and
again
Israel
with a new game.
stopped annexation.
Now
It's
I'm
just
playing with
kind
Clint.
of like giving
Hope you're enjoying
painkillers to the Palestinians
and
and
enjoy
kind of like they
the
just
news with
wanted an
me.
excuse. They know very
Enjoy
well
the
that it's
game.
still ongoing, but they wanted an
Tell
excuse
me
to give
which
to the Palestinians
champion
for
you
signing
like
this agreement.
the
This is
most.
my own personal take on it. Now, what does that mean for Palestinian living here? So basically, as I mentioned, we have almost 400,000 Palestinians in East Jerusalem that make up almost 39% of the population of the Greater Jerusalem. And more than 150,000 live beyond the separation barrier, yet they are Jerusalemites. But they are separated from the rest of Jerusalem by a wall. It means that, first of all, we have less rights, as I mentioned, because we are not citizens, we are residents. It means that we are treated as second or third class citizens in a sense of services provided. We pay the same taxes as an Israeli would in settlement or in East Jerusalem. In West Jerusalem, we pay the same taxes, but we don't get almost half the services that West Jerusalem gets. In terms of cleanliness, in terms of municipality services as well, number of health clinics, number of governmental offices that we get, it's all less, than the ones that are offered to West Jerusalem. Now, all of that is still, with a little bit of advocacy. We can advocate for better rights, but this is not the real issue. That is also very demanding in East Jerusalem right now. I think it is more the implications of that on the social life and the security of the people who live there. So first of all, being a Palestinian in East Jerusalem, it means that you are an immediate suspect. And the latest case we saw with the autistic young man who was killed in East Jerusalem simply because he didn't obey the police. Being autistic, this is one example where it shows you that every Palestinian is a suspect and he can be murdered by police. And then, like, even when you go to the court, suddenly all the cameras in that area are not working. So that's another thing, that your life is less being under annexation. It also means because you get less services and because you get less opportunities and you don't even know the language, you don't know Hebrew, we speak Arabic, very few of us know Hebrew. That also means that your opportunities, economic opportunities in life are also less. So almost 70% of the population in East Jerusalem are living under the poverty line. And that's a very scary percentage. And we all know the problems that come with poverty. Usually it's social problems. We're talking about sexual harassment. We're talking about drug abuse. And we're talking about violence, especially against women. As a woman, we also find ourselves in a very unique situation where we cannot really approach the Israeli police for help if we are being abused, but we cannot also reach our own families because it's a very patriarchal society. So we end up in this situation where we actually lose our lives as women. And then the last bit that is also happening right now, on top of everything else, is that there are weapons in Jerusalem that are being used against each other. Just a couple of weeks ago, a young girl was killed in Aysawiyah, not by Israeli occupation forces, which usually happens, but she was killed by Palestinian fire because there was a clash of somehow, and she lost her life. Now, I also want to say that because of all of this and the poverty, Israel is following two things. It's basically one idea is that it wants maximum land with minimum people. And that is why we find most of the Palestinians, the most crowded places, are actually living behind the separation zone, even though they have the Jerusalem residency card, but those areas like Kufr Aqab, Anata, Shafat refugee camp, Abu Dis and other places, it's a place where there is no law, there is no order. because the Palestinian Authority cannot intervene, but also Israeli and the municipality are saying يعني, they are behind the wall, they're not really our problem. So you will see a lack of organization, weapons, drugs, kind of like different mafias between each other that everybody's taking the law with their own hands. And then you also have this issue because of the lack of education and because of the lack of land, you see more people living in crowded little houses because obviously we want minimum, not maximum land, minimum people. So there haven't been any new neighborhoods that are being built specifically for the Palestinian population in East Jerusalem. We're being put in our own enclaves that is maximum population in very small land, which means we also have a very high rate of early marriage, very high rate of dropout from school, because that's the other thing. The second thing, we provide cheap labor for Israel. Most of the labor that goes to West Jerusalem and Israel, even though it comes from the West Bank, but also Palestinians provide this with respect to all the jobs, of course. But I'm talking about those jobs that